Good afternoon. Just candid conversation today. Technology has really moved really fast. It has allowed myself and you the ability to not have our opinions formulated for us through a funnel. There's so much information out there. Singapore, just one of their representatives asked that their government subsidize their older generation to send them back to school so that they can learn what Singapore needs or thinks it needs to integrate its people into technology. One of my videos I did say we have to have progressive thought processes out there to say, hey, with the way technology is advancing, you have some of the top execs that say technology will not only hit the labor union in relation to people who do hand labor, but it will also hit white collar workers, our desk workers and things of that nature. This is all data collection, data analyst that puts out information. So a lot of what we do today will be at risk. Then we find out that jobs are posting positions that they have no intention of hiring individuals for, which would have to make you ask yourselves when we talk about job growth and we see those job created numbers, how many of those are just jobs out there that an individual will never have an opportunity to get in the first place because they wanted to just keep the warm seat of how many people were looking for work. That's not a good way to do business. And it just doesn't help. We have people that are saying things like, hey, I have put out my resume and, went to so many jobs that align with what they want to do. Well over 1,400 and got no calls back. We're at a turning point. And while it is exciting, it is stressful. It is stressful for quite a few people. Right now, it is high time that you take a moment and you say, hey, what do I want my future to look like? Where do I want it to go? I mean, let's look at this for what it is. There are no rules against when you are running for office, whether or not you have to tell the truth. So people are asking, why are you able to lie? Why are you able to lie and still hold the office? How is this possible? Because there are no rules. Because we are not at a place where we can manage morality from a legal perspective. A lot of the things that we do today are very contractual. In my earlier videos, I really talk about the law, and you guys see me go back and reference the law. It's because K through 12, we do not learn the law. And the law is what is utilized to govern and create legislation that runs our lives. This cannot be post K through 12 education. It needs to be something we are brought up in. And hear me out, younger generation that is below the age of 40. A lot of conversation and reading is dry. It is dry. There sometimes is no way to make it interesting. Even at 40 and as I progress from, up, it's dry. But when you need it and when it affects you, you're going to wish you had a baseline in it. A baseline. This is what the issue is. Sometimes I sit back and I see people say, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? One thing I know for a fact is that leadership would more prefer to converse than for you to put something on paper that they actually have to answer to. But when you go through the legal system, if you don't know the hows and the who to give it to and the different departments that all of these things work in, if that's not something that you're brought up in, it becomes more difficult. It becomes more difficult to figure this out. And on top of that, it costs. All of this stuff costs. Somebody has to process the paperwork. And God forbid you do it wrong. Now you've spent this money, you did it wrong. You do not have a background in legislative law. So you're now having to figure this out. You go out there, you ask a question. No one's going to answer it because that's how they get paid. You don't have to be a lawyer. We just have to figure out how to intertwine this back into our education system. How do we get it back in our education system? How do we get you access to this information? We have monetized so many things today that you feel like, you know what? I'm not educated in this. I'm not smart enough. I need to pay somebody. Now you can't afford to pay somebody. What happens? You end up having to do things like go out and get loans or take out or use a credit card. All of these things that put you in bad debt. That's a lot of the things that are happening today. These are a lot of things that we have to have progressive leadership that is going to be at our state levels and help us navigate through. Everybody cannot afford to do the right thing. You can do the right thing, but can you afford to do the right thing? Maybe you can't afford the $400 filing fee, but you still want to do the right thing. You got to find somebody who can afford it. I asked a question one time. Are we priced out? Are we priced out of being able to do the right thing? Because a lot of times it just costs money to get that question answered. Why are you able to do that? If you bring it up based on civil law or based on, some type of structural law or whatever type of law they have out there, if you can bring it up and then do the research and file the paperwork properly, you'll get a proper answer back based on the law. But unfortunately, we don't all have backgrounds in it. I want to say, and I'm not reaching here, it's less than 1% of the American population has a background, that means an institutional background in law. Less than 1% by paper. Everything else you have to learn on your own. You have to go and find a law library. You have to even you have to have time to do this. This is just where we are. So again, when we pick our representatives, when we go out here and we have to make these decisions, we have to have someone that is also saying, how do I integrate into the future? How do I take all of these people and integrate them into a future? How do I make them understand every bit of what we are doing? There are a lot of problems that are going to come along the way, but there needs to be direction in that process. We cannot keep waiting until the 9th hour or until your name's called to decide that that's the moment that you start understanding what's going on. So putting some form of baseline curriculum through our education system to teach these law concepts is very important. Teach things like what exactly is lower tribunal, and how do you get from a lower tribunal to an appellate area? And why would you have to go from a lower tribunal area to an appellate area in the first place? All of these are important. If you turn to your children and you ask them, hey, if I said lower tribunal in relation to the law, what would that mean to you? If they can't answer that, then you better hope they never end up in the law, because it costs money to go higher. And it's going to cost money through all of this stuff. So we're at a point, we're in an impasse where we're all going to decide what we do next, how we get there. We're living in those type of days right now. What are we going to do about corruption? How are we going to legislate corruption? How are we going to hold our representatives accountable? Sit down with each other and answer some of those questions. Ask each other. You guys have a great day.